Hey, what's up guys? I'm BTC. Blizzard is going to be changing the 3v3 elimination mode, and hopefully it's going to be a little bit more competitive. Now, speaking of competitive, when are they going to be adding a competitive mode for 3v3? You know, back when they introduced the 1v1 and the 3v3 game mode, I was pretty excited. You know, don't get me wrong, I definitely like the regular game as it is, particularly the payload maps. Those have always been my favorite ever since back in Team Fortress 2, but I like the idea of the 3v3 having, you know, the smaller game, and basically it would allow for a different kind of meta than what the regular competitive ladder already has. And also, whenever you're queuing into the competitive ladder, most people solo queue. And just like with Forrest Gump and the box of chocolates, you never know what you're going to get. When you solo queue into a competitive match, are you going to get a good team that's going to work together and cooperate and communicate? Are you going to have enough healers? Are you going to have enough tanks? Or are you going to have a total disaster? You know, people that don't want to work together, that refuse to switch off of characters that just aren't working in that match, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So you never know what's going to happen. Now, you can group up with people and try to play the comp ladder that way, but, I mean, unless you know 5 people that are always on, you're not going to be able to always have a good team lineup that you actually want to have. But with the 3v3, all you need is 2 people, and that's pretty easy. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe because I got lots more videos on how you can better win the 3v3 and the 1v1 game mode, and of some new and improved ones coming up soon. Unfortunately, after Blizzard released the 3v3 game mode, they pretty much just kind of left it alone. I mean, they did a couple bug fixes here or there, like, you know, when Mei could use the ice wall to push herself out of bounds, and they, you know, they fixed that and stuff. But other than that, there really hasn't been any major changes or any major development with the 3v3 game mode. But thankfully, Blizzard is now going to be addressing some of the problems, and now they're going to be changing it a little bit. So, over on the official Overwatch forums, someone asked if Blizzard could add health packs to the 3v3 game mode, and the overwhelming response from the other players was that they didn't want it because it would just end in more draws. Jeff Kaplan, the game director, also responded, and this is what he had to say. We tried the mode with health packs originally, but it caused a lot of fleeing behavior that felt contrary to what elimination is all about. We tried having them on fast respawn, slow respawn, as well as no respawn, but it always felt like the health packs were too much of a primary gameplay driver rather than the pure combat, which feels like what the mode should be focused on. With that said, we plan to add health pack options to custom game so that you can enable them for elimination modes. If we see that the community is playing a high amount of elimination custom games with those health packs enabled, we'll reconsider our stance. Also, coming soon, we are redoing the sudden death mechanic in elimination to prevent fleeing and turtling and reduce the number of draws. More info on that will be revealed soon. Now, I definitely understand both sides of this argument. In the 3v3 game mode as it is now, characters that have any sort of self-healing tend to be a lot more powerful than characters that don't, especially when it comes down to a 1v1 last man standing on both teams. If one of those heroes has a self-heal, then he can basically just wage a war of attrition, and either he's going to win or he's going to force a draw. So, characters like Soldier 76, Bastion, Roadhog for sure, even Mei as well, you know, they can just kind of like sit it out and heal themselves up, do a little bit of poke damage at the enemy, and eventually the enemy's gonna die, or they just end it in a draw and they get to do it over again. So characters with a self-heal definitely have a pretty big advantage. Now, you could kind of counter that by adding health packs to the map, but then that brings in a lot of other problems, like Jeff Kaplan said. Basically, whenever someone takes even a slight amount of damage, they would run over and try to get healed up by the health pack, or they would just try to camp the health pack. Especially if there's a large health pack somewhere on the map, then people are just going to try to camp it, so that way they can just keep grabbing it as soon as they take any damage or they get put in any sort of real danger. Now, in the regular game mode, health packs tend to be in kind of safe areas. They're inside of buildings, they're around walls, they're around corners, that sort of thing. So they're in a protected area. So when you grab the health pack, you're not really at risk. If they were to add health packs to the 3v3 game mode, they would have to do the exact opposite. The health pack would almost certainly have to be in the open somewhere, so that way people can't camp it. You know, you don't want someone being able to just stand on the health pack around a corner or something and just constantly get it every time they take a little bit of damage. Another problem with adding the health packs to the 3v3 game mode is it might make Sombra way too powerful. How many health packs are they going to actually be able to add to the map? It's a pretty small map, so maybe they could add like 3, one for each team and then one in the middle. A Sombra can easily have all 3 of those hacked all the time, no problem whatsoever. So it might make a Sombra way too powerful. On the other hand, I do feel that Sombra is kind of losing out a little bit right now because there are no health packs for her to hack. So one of her major abilities, I mean, yeah, she can still hack the other players, but one of her major abilities that she uses in games is to be able to hack the health packs to get health for herself and her team and to prevent the enemy. But she can't do that in the 3v3 game mode right now, so she's kind of missing out. But again, if they add it, she might be too powerful because then she can completely lock out the enemy team. Basically, it would turn into a situation where both teams almost have to have a Sombra like every single time. Because if you don't have it, and the enemy does, then all the health packs are going to get locked out. Another pretty big problem is that adding health packs would definitely increase the amount of games that end in a draw, and that's just frustrating. Now, there is something that they could do to kind of deal with that, make the health packs available during the main part of the match, but as soon as it goes into sudden death, they could either make it so that the health packs don't respawn, or they could just disable them altogether. I still think that you're going to have an increased number of draws if there are health packs on the field at any time, but disabling them or preventing respawn in overtime or the sudden death would probably limit that a little bit. But that might not matter at all because Jeff Kaplan said that they're redoing the sudden death mechanic to prevent fleeing, turtling, and to reduce the number of draws, so that issue may already be addressed with something that we don't even know about yet. Now, when he says that they're going to redo the sudden death mechanic, I think that a couple of things come to mind. First of all is the extremely frustrating situation when you have, let's say, 2 people on your team still alive, but the enemy has like a Tracer, a Sombra, or a Lucio, and they basically spend the entire time just evading your team. They're not doing any damage whatsoever. They're just running away constantly, and because of whatever heroes you have, you're not able to catch, you know, the Lucio or the Tracer or something, and they just run out the clock, and then the match ends in a draw. Even though you have 2 people alive, and they only have 1 person alive, it's still a draw, which I think is dumb. If you have more people alive, then you should get the win. So if they change that, then it's going to force that other person to actually engage, and at an absolute minimum, that person is going to try to like even it up to 1v1, and then it might end in a draw. The other thing that comes to mind is what they do in the survival game, last man standing type of stuff. You know, like the culling or player unknown, H1Z1, all those sorts of things. Basically, when the time starts to run out, the entire battlefield, the area where you can fight, starts to shrink. And either there's some sort of like forced wall that moves you in closer, or there's like, you know, an electric field or poison gas or something. Basically, it forces everybody into the center, and if you don't go there, then you just die and you lose. So they could do that in the 3v3, but I don't really think that would work in Overwatch. Because in Overwatch, some characters are really strong at close range, and others are really strong at long range. So if sudden death was to force them into an ever-shrinking, smaller, enclosed area, well, then some characters are always going to have a distinct advantage. Basically, if you have a Widowmaker on one team and Reaper on the other team, all the Reaper has to do is just wait it out until sudden death. hide behind walls, and don't ever give the Widowmaker a clear shot. As soon as sudden death forces everybody into a small area, well, now the Reaper has the advantage and he can pretty much just wipe out the Widowmaker no problem. If I had to guess at what Blizzard is going to do to change the sudden death mechanic, I'd say they're probably going to do something with healing. My bet would be they cut it in half, so that way it's just not nearly as effective and you can't quite win that war of attrition that you can do right now. So still no word on whether we're going to be getting a 3v3 competitive ladder. When they first introduced the 3v3 game mode, they did say they were open to the possibility, but we haven't heard anything yet. So hopefully they add it. I think it would be a lot of fun. What do you guys think about these changes to the 3v3 game mode? Let me know down in the comment section down below. And also don't forget to check out the Discord server where you can join the community and also find other players to group up in matches with. The link for that is in the description. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button. Remember, always blame the controller because it's never your fault. Also, thanks to all my Patreon supporters for help making this all possible. If you'd like to see what kind of cool rewards you can get for supporting, click the link on screen or down below.